Hello, I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough, and today's requested review comes from a longtime fan, That Random Encounter Guy. Today's review will be on the MLP fanfic, Past Sins. Released to fanfiction.net in 2012, Past Sins was a passion project of the writer Penstroke, assisted by Batty Gloom. The fic was started in September and concluded in November of the same year. Several chapters were revised to fit the Season 2 canon. Aside from growing a fan base of its own, it also received a spin-off series called Reality Check's Nixiverse, a film adaptation in the works, an upcoming comic book adaptation, a sequel series, and a prequel series. This fanfic is so popular, it actually has hardcover book adaptations. So, let's delve into all 21 chapters of Past Sins. In the prologue titled Resurrection, we begin in the Everfree Forest, late at night. The first few paragraphs do a really good job at setting up the atmosphere, dark, windy, with the only sounds of bugs chirping. The story proper begins with a guy called Nexus leading a cult of ponies who are set on resurrecting Nightmare Moon. Why? Because they see it as the greater good. Doesn't the cult know that Nightmare Moon and Luna were one and the same pony, and that they destroyed Nightmare Moon when they reverted her back to Luna? I mean, sure, in Season 5 they established that Luna had her own inner demon, Nightmare Moon, but this was written when Season 3 was going on. Pony fanboy, it's just a fanfic. Just calm down. Ignore him, people. The plan is to combine all the unicorns in the cult's magic to use a resurrection spell, using the remains of Nightmare Moon and a blood essence. From who, you may ask? A kidnapped... I am not saying pony napped. That is just way too silly. Twilight Sparkle. And yes, they legitimately cut her foot, with a knife and everything. Once they're done with her, they put a mute spell on her voice, and Nexus even kicks her in the stomach. So this guy must have gone to the Mo Howard School of Assault. The cult begins to launch their resurrection spell, but Celestia and some royal guards step in. But the cult is not giving up without a fight. They turn that giant plain area into a battlefield. As you would guess, the cult retreats, for now. The guards examine the aftermath, and Zecora is one of the people who tipped off the cult's ongoings. And the chapter ends with everyone coming across a puddle of blood, with a heartbeat. The proper Chapter 1 begins with Twilight coming home, with a nervous Rarity telling her that she wants to make her feel better, but she says that she feels perfectly fine after being treated by Fluttershy and having a luncheon with Rainbow Dash, and so Rarity rain checks a favor for later. Then Twilight realizes that she forgot one of her books, which was a personal book that belonged to Celestia, in a saddlebag that she left back in the forest. So, quite ignorantly, she decides to just go out, even though Spike offers to go with her for some reason. Then she goes out alone. She then realizes, oh, that's a bad idea. She comes across the book, but she notices that there's something following her. And then it turns out that it's just a filly that's stuck in a tree. She notices that it looks like Nightmare Moon, but she thinks nothing of it, so she sneaks the filly past Spike. She shows the filly some TLC by giving her some food, giving her a bath, and giving her shelter, and she starts to grow quite motherly of the filly. Spike then finds out about it, feels tempted to write a letter to Celestia, but Twilight bribes him by giving him a gem. Chapter 2 is fairly simple. It's pretty much just Twilight showing the filly around, and by the way, she named the filly Nyx, and she's showing her around to all of her friends. In this chapter, namely, Rarity, which, by the way, that was the payoff to the rain check favor. This is the favor. So, she introduces Nyx, and despite the fact that Rarity's a little nervous by the fact she looks like Nightmare Moon, she grows quite fond of Nyx, like all the other rest of the main six. And she even points out that she's an alicorn, which is totally going to come back later, I think, probably. Chapter 3 begins with Twilight sending Nyx to her first day of school, and despite the fact that pre-Season 5 Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon are total assholes to her, Apple Bloom stands up for her, and she quickly becomes friends with Apple Bloom. Also, this chapter establishes that Twilight sets up a fib, not a white lie, something that even Applejack doesn't notice. But, element of honesty, you think she would have noticed, and says that Nyx is actually her cousin. Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon decide to pull a pretty nasty prank. What they do is they send Nyx to the Everfree Forest. If it wasn't for the fact that Zecora and random wildlife lives in there, I think people should just build a fence around that place. But anyway, they drop Nyx off into the Everfree Forest, and then act like nothing happened. After that, Twilight starts to frantically look around for her, which, by the way, she was the one that actually let Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon take her away to have quote-unquote fun. So she then comes across them, and this was pretty funny. You actually get to see Twilight threaten, quote-unquote, interrogate Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon, and it is the best. She threatens to turn them into cacti. That's amazing. And just, they continue to be kinder douches that, I hate pre-Season 5 Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon. I'm surprised they turned them into very likable characters in that one episode. Anyway, what happens is, they reveal where she is. The main six go looking for Nyx. Nyx is at the castle of the two sisters. She learns about Nightmare Moon's existence, and she's a little sad about it, but she's happy as soon as her and Twilight are reconnected. I swear, if Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon aren't punished for this, I don't even know what I'm gonna do. I'm just probably gonna yell into that pillow right over there. Diamond Tiara and her dad, Filthy Rich, coming by, and Filthy Rich pulls this whole baseball dad kind of mentality, saying, "Oh, you threatened my kid," and this makes me hate that whole family even more, because it's your kid actively sent another child into a dangerous area where they could have gotten killed, and you want to say that your kid is in the right? You suck. All right. The next chapter has the school give the students an assignment where they have to come up with a play. And Nyx comes up with a play after reading a book about what was essentially the pilot episode of MLP, and she plays Nightmare Moon. And Twilight is terribly nervous of this. She even banishes Nyx to her room, locks her in there, but Aloysius helps her sneak out. But one thing does pop into Twilight's mind, that Celestia and Luna are attending, and that they're going to be watching the play. And Luna is perfectly fine with it. I mean, she starts having some sad memories about it, but Celestia comforts her, which that was adorable. And the play goes off without a hitch, but it seems that in one scene Nyx is getting a little too into character, which that again comes back into play. Nyx is a very method actress, making her the best actor out of all these young fillies. And we get this really good moment where Twilight admits she was wrong for locking Nyx away, but she also says that she has to be punished for sneaking out. See, this is parenting done right. Admitting that you were wrong, but at the same time making sure the kid does not go unpunished for them sneaking out. Next chapter has our characters take place in an event called the Learn and Play Day, which is pretty much just, I guess, this world's equivalent of Scholastic. And Nyx has her own booth where she teaches people about transfiguration, where she can turn one object into another. She demonstrates by using a rock, and she turns it into a flower. Pinkie Pie suggests that she should turn Fluttershy into a tree, but she's nervous at first, but she successfully does it, and a couple paragraphs later, it gets fastly resolved. I would say that was a big-lipped alligator moment, but it's funny, so I'll let it slide. Pinkie then gets her pinky sense kicking, and it seems that somebody's watching them. And later on, they find Pinkie transfixed and in a trance, and then they snap her out by saying that she's invited to the Grand Galloping Gala. Once again, that was cute. That was pretty funny. The one thing that this chapter establishes is the dynamic between the CMC and Nyx, because there's 3 times where they're challenged to a tug-of-war. First time they win, second time they win, and they actually beat Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon, which is glorious. And the third time, it seems they're going to lose since the 3 main CMC fall into the mud. But Nyx uses her magic to help them win. And everyone's congratulating her, but it's, again, Twilight's a little suspicious. She thinks something might be up. In the next chapter, Twilight receives a letter from Celestia, and Celestia tells Twilight that Nyx actually is a young Nightmare Moon incarnate. And she is completely devastated, so much so that she hasn't slept for 3 days. And Rarity shows up, and they talk over some tea, and it's a pretty good... And she takes her to the spa, and it's a pretty cutesy moment. Also, while this is going on, they establish that Celestia is having a chat of her own with Nexus, the cult leader from the beginning, which is so stupid because he even has this one line.
Celestia, you have become a contributing architect in your own demise.
Did I mention I'm not a villain?
In the chapter after that, Twilight tries to connect with Nyx. They have a fun afternoon, but Celestia and a bunch of royal guards show up, and after a confrontation, which is pretty emotional, it's pretty tense, and as they just take Nyx away and take her to Nexus. As Nyx is being hauled off to Nexus, she yells out, "Mommy," to Twilight. Oh my god. Oh my god. That's so sad. A child who was taken away from their parental figure, being taken away to somewhere that they don't even know where they're going, by a bunch of people that they don't even know. Oh my god, that's really sad. This is really emotional. You know what, I hate to be that one guy, but is anyone else getting flashbacks to Star Wars The Force Awakens? So she's taken to Nexus, a huge cult forms in Town Square, and Nyx is told the horrible truth that she is Nightmare Moon. She slowly starts to grow, and she grows even more angry, and the hate builds inside her. She yells at Twilight, and it's pretty much established that Nyx is Nightmare Moon, and she is officially transformed in nothing but hate. Ooh, so they unleashed Discord to fight Nightmare Moon, right? Well, actually, wait. Discord wasn't technically a good guy, and they froze him in cement. Well, okay, they unleash Chrysalis to fight Nightmare Moon, right? Well, actually, wait, they don't know where the village of the changelings are yet. Well, they're boned. Chapter 11 is pretty much Nexus showing Nixmare Moon, as I like to call her. Or, yeah, screw it, it's Nightmare Moon. And even though she has, like, lots of passionate hatred inside of her, she still has the fond memories of Twilight. But it's overshadowed by hate, and it's just... It is a good character moment, because it shows that Nyx has had fond memories, but just the hatred has flowed through her. Also, throughout this entire chapter, we have a back and forth between Celestia and Luna, which finally, they get Luna back in the picture, because you think she would have a say in this, but just, But there's a lot of back and forth, blah, blah, blah. They even get really brutal. They bring up their past mistakes, and Luna even points out that Celestia actually handed over a child to a leader of a cult. Wow. You know what? I'm the kind of brony that doesn't really like picking sides of best princess, but screw it, man. I'm on Luna's side. She has every right to be pissed off with her sister.